Welcome to MySensei Weekly, the go-to podcast for entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Denise Creisson, and we're diving into the fascinating topic of AI, how to take advantage of the short window of opportunity. Joining us is renowned expert Bill Graham, who will shed some light on how entrepreneurs can leverage AI to transform their businesses. Let's unravel the AI mystery and explore how it can be a game changer for your venture. Bill, welcome to the show. To kick things off, please tell us about your background and also your work with AI.
As you can see, I'm not a 20-year-old anymore. So my background is a little bit long and varied, which has been very advantageous to many things I've done in my life. I began my career as a military officer, then moved into media and market research, then into management consulting at the very highest levels of corporate management, advised the banks of Switzerland, almost all the major banks of Switzerland, on the future of money for several years, and moved then into building a multinational technology company and software that became a market leader in 10 of the major developed countries of the world. From there, the education bug bit me, went into education at Purdue University, became the course sequence coordinator for data management. And from that, after a couple of years of then realizing university is too late to impact education, spent 3 years traveling the United States, studying education in many parts of the country, speaking to the better part of 1,000 educators, coming up with some solutions and running a couple of pilots. I did 3 pilots that averaged 100,000 students each across the entire country and several countries in Europe. And from there, the success of those pilots resulted in one of my ideas becoming a youth project for the 500th anniversary of Columbus's arrival in the US, and 42 countries and republics in Europe, plus the United States, were participating. The estimates based on teacher responses were that we would have roughly 20 million young people from both continents involved. And unfortunately, in the summer of 1992, 3 movies came out within a 6-week period that Columbus was the most evil person to have ever walked the face of the planet, and nobody wanted to hear anything about Columbus anymore. My ability to recruit politicians and others went to zero. Had to go back to work. I ended up heading up cloud application development at Chase Manhattan Bank for almost a decade, and went back into entrepreneurial, built 2 more companies, and went into then architecting enterprise software similar to SAP. We were the first cloud, really significant cloud version of an SAP entrepreneurial software. And that got me to the point where I was able to retire again and go back to what my favorite field is, and that is trying to make a difference in the world. I have grandchildren, and I would like to see that they have a good future. So we're looking at the dangers facing the world, whether it's climate change, nuclear war, and most recently, artificial intelligence. Now, having been in IT and building companies in IT for the better part of almost 50 years now, I see huge opportunities and benefits that can come from AI. There are dangers, and we need to talk about those, because I'm not talking about here the AIs taking over the world and destroying humanity. That risk is there, but there's more everyday risks that are going to apply. And those everyday risks are really all about business in the end. It's going to be the impact that AI has on our everyday lives and the way our economies work and what that means for business and how quickly that happens. And as I mentioned, coming from a background in cloud application development, this is very relevant, especially for small businesses around the world. The next 2 to 5 years are just going to be so full of opportunities.
We're very excited to have you on our first podcast. We'll go into the questions. So AI has become the talk of the world, and there's barely any daily news that doesn't include mention of AI, new capabilities, opportunities, where it's going, how fast it's going. and also how it's changing our lives. So could you give us ideas of where you think this is actually going? What are some of these new capabilities, opportunities, and also the speed at which these are actually happening in the world right now? I know for me, I feel like I have whiplash at the moment with the amount of new developments. Could you give us your view on those matters?
Yeah, I think the first thing we need to focus on is, where is AI right now? There is so much confusion. The confusion ranges from a lot of people not being aware of what the capabilities are to people not understanding what those capabilities mean. It's what it does. What AI can do right now is probably less important than what the underlying capabilities really mean and what they mean for the future. And there's huge misunderstandings and a lot of myths out there about AI and about the impact it's going to have on everything from jobs and how that's going to impact economies and what that's going to mean for businesses. And also, what's very critical is to understand that just because technology exists, we always see that there's a significant lag in adoption. And it varies from certain countries and economies or regions will adopt things slower than others. However, with the kind of technologies that are available today, the opportunities to adopt new technologies very quickly is universal. It takes no time to implement software around the world unless somebody has put restrictions on it in one way or another. So let's start off with what it's really capable of. And you have to watch daily to know what it's capable of. I remember when I first started. Now, I've been involved in trying to find ways for software to write itself, to develop itself since the early 1990s. So I've been following this evolution, if you would, for now almost 30 years. We have to realize a couple of things. One is artificial intelligence is probably a misnomer. First, it's not really intelligence. So it's not about humans versus machines, which a lot of people look at. What it is individual humans versus the collective recorded knowledge of hundreds of thousands or millions of humans, or their experience or the observations of humans or sensor devices that are able to record information. So that what's really happening here is that one human experiences a certain amount of, let's look at a doctor. A doctor may have experienced a couple of hundred people with a certain set of conditions in their career. But the AI can look at and see 100,000 people that have had the same set of conditions, with the advantage of hindsight to be able to say, okay, what diagnoses turned out to be correct? What treatments turned out to be effective, looking in the rearview mirror, and therefore is able to provide more accurate information than the typical individual doctor can. And we can apply that to almost any field out there. But some of the things that have rapidly changed the world it is, things were evolving at a pretty slow pace over the last 3 decades until OpenAI decided to throw their product out to the public. And what really happened on there, we saw in 3 days, I think it went to 1 million users. And within 60 days, it was over 100 million users. And really the story of the last 16 months or so is those users that have done so much with these tools that OpenAI never envisioned themselves when they put that out there. And so most of what's happening in the world today is simply because of the great number of people that are developing things. So you've got tens of millions of people out there working on one tool or another to solve one piece of problem or another piece of problem. That is what's driving the speed at which this is happening. And it's driving the number of use cases where this technology is able to have great impact. We used to be able to go and say, let's automate any function in logistics or manufacturing or sales and marketing. We could do that 40 years ago. We just had to come up with a lot of decision trees in our coding that would cause for a chain of reaction to certain events. But what's happened now is that the AI is able to use machine learning to go through all these tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of cases to find out what is the best reaction to use. And it's generating, if you would, these decision trees on its own. What we have seen is the evolution starting off with plugins. People were making plugins. Then we saw here custom instructions coming out where people could put context to narrow down the set of information that was being analyzed to come up with the answers, to now custom GPTs and so on, and the ability to include programming, include function calls to link together so many of these technologies. Now the hot one is agents. Here, the ability to create agents that can pull multiple artificial intelligence chatbots, if you would, that are doing individual things, pull them together, chain them together to be able to accomplish tasks honestly. So where the artificial intelligence can cover these. Now, along the way, we've added in a lot of sensor capabilities. We started off, it was just text. You send text and you got something back. Then you send text and you could get an image back. And then you could send text and get audio back, have it text to speech. So we've seen text to speech, text to image, text now to video. But we've also, what's maybe even more important, is we see now video to text or video to voice. Why this is so important is this is enabling the artificial intelligence to understand our world. They're no longer dependent on just us telling them information. They're able to acquire the information on their own. And the latest example of this is a figure one robot that OpenAI is developing in conjunction, or they've added the ChatGPT into this robotic function that now can see, it can understand, it can converse, and it can act pretty much autonomously. And this is an example of how quickly all this is evolving. Before going into where this is going, we need to address a couple of the myths. When any new technology has come along, people want to jump on it. Oh, wow, this is new and it's exciting. Let me jump on it. Of course, we know when something is new, it has more bugs and problems than something that has been around for a while. You don't want to buy the first 10 cars of a new model that comes off the assembly line, because they're more likely to have problems than cars after a few thousand have been on the road and they've identified what the issues are. A lot of those first attempts, they say, oh, look at this AI. Oh, it sounded great. And everybody was talking about it. But then we find it can't even multiply. It can't even accurately add. It can't do math. And as far as these images go, look at this. It's got all these people with 7 fingers on their hand. Or look at that. I give it text and it can't even spell. It can't even do text right on the images. So we saw all those problems. But if you look today, you'll find almost none of those problems exist anymore. Because on the one hand, we've seen the vendors correct their tools to make their tools better. But in most of the cases, we found the users, those who stuck with it, who didn't just say, oh, I got a mistake, I'm not going to use this anymore. But those who stuck with it said, let me go and make sure my prompt that I ask for the things correctly. Let me make sure I told it what I want correctly. We know when you're communicating with humans, if you don't go give the proper instructions, you shouldn't be surprised if you don't get the result you're looking for. Or if you walk down the street and just ask a random human, can you explain to me Einstein's theory of relativity or something? They may try, but I don't know how much confidence you can put in the answers. And so before we got into the point of understanding how to ask good questions and how to ask good prompts, these were the typical types of errors that we encounter. Anyway, so the idea here is you have to stick with something, and now we see the results that we are getting. If we compare them to just a year ago, the difference is mind-boggling. What we saw a year ago, anybody has said, where are we going to be a year from now? Almost everybody says they could never imagine that we'd be where we're at right now. And Even some of the experts that I'm following in January were saying it's going to take us 1 to 2 years before we are going to be able to get video of the quality that OpenAI is doing with Sora, demonstrated with Sora. Or if we look at Suno, what in the music field, it's the impact that it's having there. So let's talk a little bit about where's this taking us.
Before we actually go there, you were lining up quite nicely for my next question, which is in the uptake of this. So you had mentioned like the million people that had actually gone on to using AI in the beginning. Now, in my experience, my work is with entrepreneurs and early stage businesses. And I'm surprised at the number of them that aren't using any type of AI at all. The reaction towards using AI and powering their businesses has been very mixed. Now, what would you actually say to those that are maybe not wanting to get on the bandwagon now, and the strategy is to hold and then see? What is the impact of doing nothing?
I think for right now, there's huge opportunities. If you are on technology, the opportunities are really great. For most people, if you're a plumber, an electrician, if you're in many small businesses, a lot of this stuff is really not right for use yet. It's in the development stage. And part of the problem is you can see great solutions. And then 2 days later, oh, there's a better one. You can't be going and taking and disrupting your business over and over again. Now, if you're in the business of helping other businesses take advantage of technologies and you're consulting and helping them implement, you can help them implement a current snapshot of what's possible. And just in this last week, we've seen here the ability to just basically tell AI, hey, I want you to call these 10,000 people here and ask them what they think about this. Cold calls with intelligence. In other words, cold calls that can have a conversation with the people they're calling to find out certain information. It could be, say, hey, I want you to call here the 20 counties near us and find out what the building code is relative to something else, and then we'll do it. And that requires having a conversation with the person on the other end to make sure they understand what the AI is looking for. So we see these fantastic capabilities. The average company can't be in this constant turmoil of changing their operations. So last year we saw the big strikes taking place in Hollywood between the writers and the actors and the studios. But in the meantime, we now know when Sora came out, within 2 weeks, an $800 million project to build new studios in the Atlanta area was canceled because they said there's no future for that. So you really have to go and see where are you and what is the opportunity. As I said, if you are keeping up and hear solutions that will work for something and you can help a company install those quickly, you can make a fortune. There's a major trend that's taking place for small businesses here that's going to be extremely important, and that is cloud technology. One of the things is here, I do not encourage any small company, unless you are a specialized technology company, do not try to have your own local technology. Go to the cloud, because you can't afford to run your own data centers. You can't afford to be maintaining and all the software and updating all the software unless you're in that business. So we see here in the United States, even going down to the plumbers and the franchises, even to the handymen, the franchises are coming along, and it's not so much is it a franchise or is it an outsourcing, but there's companies coming along and saying, hey, Mr. Plumber, your critical skill is connecting pipes. You're not an expert here in marketing. You're not an expert here in the supply chains. You're not an expert in billing and accounting. Let us handle all that for you. Okay, so we'll handle everything about your business except the core competency that you've got as an electrician or a plumber. And that's going to be moving into every single field. Economies of scale. It doesn't make sense if your skill is in a certain area. Find ways to focus on your skill and find ways to outsource what is not your core competency. And that way you can devote time to improving your core competency, and you'll have the opportunity for the longest time. Now, if your core competency is in writing or creating videos, or you're a photographer, a cameraman, a musician, any of those things, a lot of people are saying, hey, this thing is destroying core competency of being able to take the picture and set the lighting and do all these different things is not needed anymore. But I've had some discussions with some authors and other creative types who say it's not about the book I come up with in the end. It's about the process that I went through in writing the book and developing the book. That's great for you. Good. Then go in a closet and you can still go and write and get your pleasure there. But as far as the reading, your audience out there goes, your market out there goes, the only thing they see is the book. They don't really care what you went through to write that book. Did it take you a year? Did it take you 5 years? Or did you do it in 2 hours? The quality of the book speaks for itself. And the real key is if you're in any of those creative fields, then you really need to know what the capabilities of artificial intelligence is, because that is becoming your profession. That's your tools for creating what you create in your business. If you are, on the other hand, in a major corporation, and you have to say, okay, how do I deal with 10,000 locations out there and have them all function the same? Or how do I reduce the cost of customer service? We mentioned about the telephone capabilities. The biggest hindrance of that was latency. It was very disruptive if you heard somebody on the other end say something and it took them 30 seconds for the response to start coming back. That is in the process of being eliminated with this new chip out there for artificial intelligence. The latency is being driven down to almost zero, and that's what these new tools are taking advantage of. So any small business out there, you need to not become the expert in how AI works. But what you do need to know is what are the latest advances affecting use cases that are applicable to my business.
Thank you very much, Bill. That's actually the next question that I was going to ask you, which was, what should businesses do to survive and actually thrive in the era of AI? So you've mentioned understanding what its capabilities are and how they are aligned with their businesses. And you've mentioned that it's not for them to become an expert in the AI, but in making sure that they understood where the kind of like advantages of using it. So whether it's streamlining or creating greater efficiency in their business. What advice could you give to a small business that has never dipped their feet into AI? How should they go about exploring AI, and how should they go about looking for how to find that alignment with capabilities?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to address this from 2 points. So if I forget the second one, please bring me
I'll
back to
prompt
it.
you.
And one is what you can do as a small business to leverage what artificial intelligence is bringing. The second is you have got to be aware of how AI is going to impact society, because it's going to impact your market. So your whole premise of your business, you're providing somebody out there some benefit, otherwise they're not going to do business with you. You need to be aware of what are the needs of society. How are the needs of society, your market, how are they likely to change because of AI? So you don't want to become the most efficient operation providing a solution that nobody else needs anymore. So you've got to look at both things. Look at what your market needs, how your market is evolving and likely to evolve over the next few years. And then you need to look at how your operation could evolve and how it needs to evolve. So let's start off with the operational perspective. One of the problems when I was getting ready to give some talks on artificial intelligence towards the end of 2022, just after ChatGPT came out, actually, I was starting just before it came out. And just before it came out, I'm looking to see, okay, who else is talking about the subject? What are they saying? And I had difficulty finding 3 good YouTube videos that were talking about what was really the state of AI and what was going on. And just a few weeks after that, that had grown to hundreds. Now there's tens of thousands out there. Even if I just focus it on the most valuable and experienced YouTube channels, there's at least 100 channels there. You can spend all day trying to just keep up with the latest news on that, and you'll see it's very difficult. You need to find a way that you're going to take this massive information out there and get it down to what's important to you, what's valuable to you and your business and your professional field. And the best way that I can think of to do that is to use AI for that purpose. What you want to do is you want to really get to understand how to use at least tools like ChatGPT, Claude 3, Genesis, whatever. You want to understand how you do that effectively. And that's not just you ask a question and you're going to get an answer. You got to ask questions, and then you got to ask follow-up questions, and you're going to have to ask, well, why did you say that? And you're going to have to understand about context to be able to do this. And you're going to need to understand who out there is asking questions like you are, so that you don't have to go out there and reinvent the wheel. If somebody else has already come out with a great tool that collects the kind of information that's important to you, you want to be using that. So this is like looking at for custom GPTs, looking at AIs. You got to learn to do searches on YouTube and searches on Twitter or X out there to know what's happening relative to your field. Just be careful that if you're talking about supply chains, you don't have to talk about who's doing something for supply chains with plumbing, because the supply chains for electronics or almost anything else has got a lot of similarities out there. Or how am I going to market my services or products out there in the industry? You need to abstract your questions and have these things looking. And now with agent technology, you can just tell this and say, you know what, every morning when I wake up, hey, agent, will you go and tell me what's happened in the last 24 hours that's important for my profession? Mm-hmm. You can do that today. Is it perfect yet? No, but it will never be as bad as it is today. It's going to always improve, and it's going to be better and better. So if you learn to use the AI technology, learn to use things like ChatGPT and spend the $20 for that or for Copilot or whatever, it is well worth it. You don't want to risk having your business fall behind just because you wanted to save $20 a month. You need to know these latest trends. And you also have to go and ask questions like, but how could I implement that then? Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. But how can I use that in my business? My business, it looks like this. I only have so much space in my facility, or I only have so many employees. And how do I reach more people? You've got to be spending a lot of time talking. It's almost like you having a mentor out there that you can just talk to and say, how do I improve this? How do I do that? How do I do my taxes? What's the proper answer to the question of this question? How can I reach more prospective clients? What do my prospective clients, what are their major concerns? What are the things that are going to appeal to them that I can get them more interested in what I'm offering? You can get so much more. You do not have to say, whatever I did yesterday, that's what I'm going to do today. And you really have to look at the trend. Look at over a period of months. If you're following this over a period of months, look at where things are going to be in a few months. What is it? That hockey player Gretzky said, you don't skate to where the puck is, you skate to where it's going to be. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing a small business, your opportunity is knowing where you need to be 3 months, 6 months, 12 months into the future, because some of these things have lead times. And be very careful. Do not jump onto things where the time it's going to take you to implement them is longer than the probable life cycle of what you're implementing, because that's happening today a lot. We see, especially in software, people are installing software and then the support for that software becomes obsolete very quickly, and they stop supporting that software. And now you're stuck here using software that's not being supported anymore. So be aware of the trends that are taking place, the big picture. Even if you're a local small business owner, You got to understand the big trends. Now, that's as far as your operation goes. But now talking about, okay, well, am I still going to have those clients out there? You could be a small restaurateur. But what happens if nobody in my community can afford to come and eat meals out anymore? What does that mean for me? So you need to, or the other way around, and say, hey, all of a sudden they got so much money, they don't want to eat and they want to eat in a fancy place. My place isn't that fancy. I need to change because my market is changing. And this is going to be crucial because just think here, if we're looking 12 months in the future, and everybody's got a little pin somewheres, and that pin includes cameras, or maybe they got multiple pins. So they're almost like a self-driving car. It sees what's happening all around them. They know you go here into a university lecture and you're listening to the lecture, and the AI is telling you, explaining to you what the lecturer is saying 10 times better than the lecturer is in real time. Or that you're walking down the street and it says, watch out, that car's coming over there. So the thing here, when we look, you can take any profession right now, because the estimates are that we're moving into a post-labor economy where human labor will have very little value, because there is basically nothing that a human can do that AI can't do better, faster, cheaper, and safer. And so you really are going to have to think about what that means for you. If you're delivering a solution to somebody, you're satisfying somebody's need out there. And you've got to realize if there's tools out there that can satisfy them much better than you can, you need to be using those tools so that you are still the first choice of the people that you're trying to help. As AI increases productivity, all those studios out there that are spending money to send camera crews on location that don't have to do that anymore, you're going to be able to go and have a little tiny small operation of 10 people that are going to be able to outcompete a studio that has 10,000. This is, on the one hand, a huge opportunity because you can leverage all these tools to enable you to do this. But let's just look at a medical doctor. One of the advantages we're going to see is they're going to have so much better and quicker diagnoses and treatment recommendations. The disease incidences are going to go down. But what does this mean? An increase of productivity. If now a person can do 10 times what they used to be able to do, that means that we probably don't need 9 of those anymore. I can't just go and say, look, our company, let's make 10 times as many products. That doesn't mean the market needs 10 times as many products out there. So if they don't need that, companies are going to say, you know what, you can accomplish all the work in a tenth of your time. So why don't you take 4 days a week off without pay, of course, because we don't need you. Or, sorry, you 9 over here, but this guy knows how to use these tools the best. I don't need you anymore. So we're going to see huge job layoffs. And one of the things that I hear so many times is, don't worry, especially the heads of the companies making the AI keep saying, don't worry. We're going to be creating more jobs than we're going to be losing. That's always happened. Every time technology's come along and displaced workers, they've always created more new jobs that were even better. But this time is different because the thing that is displacing the humans is not something that can do only one narrow job. It's displacing the humans because it can do everything the human can do. So even if there are new jobs, the AI or automation or the robotics is going to be able to do those new jobs also with that higher level of productivity. Don't expect we're going to see a big increase in job opportunities out there for people. For the top 10%, there probably will always be opportunity, at least for quite some time into the future. But if you're not in that top 10%, or you do not have the connections or the political connections there to give you preferable treatment, you might be difficult. This is going to require a rethinking of economies. For 10,000 years, we've lived in a world where owners of land or buildings or factories or machines shared or provided opportunities for human labor to create things and do things. And then they shared, the two sides, the owners and labor shared in the rewards of that labor. But if we no longer need the human labor, that means all the benefits accrue to the owners only. They're now owning the factories and the land, but they're also owning the robots and they're owning the AI. We have to figure out how does the world work if human labor has little or no value? Again, a couple of percents are going to be thinking of great ideas. Probably what they're going to be doing is going to be asking AI, please think of some great ideas. Because we already see in the pharmaceutical industries how much of the new advances in pharmaceuticals are the results of research and development done by AI, as opposed to a human that might take weeks to test something, the ability of AI to do it in no time at all. And examples of this are looking to see how AI learned to play Atari games or learned to play Go. It self-taught itself. And because it was able to do millions of trials, of tests, and then be able to see which ones achieved something that was in the right direction that it wanted to go and kept self-improving. We are this close to having AI that improves itself. And when it starts improving itself, a human takes so many decades to go through a generation. Digital, I hate using the word intelligence, but the digital capabilities can go through generations of improvements in seconds. And so this is going to be the huge difference between the digital and the biological. So bottom line for business, you need to be following continually where are the opportunities for me to improve my operations, to improve my productivity, to improve the offer of benefits that I am offering to my marketplace out there. And the second piece is I need to really keep an eye on where the market, where the economy, where the society, where's that going and how quickly, so that I'm not caught off guard providing solutions that are no longer applicable to the marketplace out there.
Thank you, Bill, especially on touching on what the emerging trends are and how businesses can future-proof what they're actually doing at the moment. I would like to explore with you a little bit more on the opportunities. So we are aware of the threats now, and although a SWOT is like a very simplistic model and tool to use, but if we looked at what are the opportunities right now that AI actually presents, dialing it back a little bit, you were talking about some of the issues that we had first experience with AI, hallucinations being one of them, and where some of the distrust has happened with AI. But where are we with that now? What is the risk of things like hallucinations, where AI, even if there isn't an answer, is forced to give you an answer, so it makes one up? The quality of our decision making is only as good as the quality of the data that we have driving it. So if we are maximizing the capabilities of AI and helping us to retrieve some of this information, if there's elements of hallucination in that, then that's going to impact our businesses going forward. What is the current risk with that? And then also, where are the opportunities? So with every disruption, you always have winners and losers. So how can we be winners? Please help us with that.
Okay. First, I want to say something about hallucinations. That's very interesting. In the early days, when there were a lot of hallucinations here, I read an article or saw something about a group of people that were taking the hallucinations and expanding on those to see opportunities to make new businesses. The AI is trying to go and give the best answer to the question. And if it can't find one, it will try to infer one, make one up basically out of whatever it saw out there. It'll try to make up answers. Since it's trying to make up the best answers to our question, some of those answers, even though they didn't exist, we would love them to exist. Wow, that would be so great if that existed. And so there's people that went out there and said, hey, this is for us a great tool to come up with great ideas of what people might want. And if we can then focus on finding a way to deliver that. Hallucinations are bad if you're saying, I need this accurate information, but it could be very valuable if you're out there basically mining for new ideas. Now, to the question of hallucinations, imagine you're in a big football stadium, and you get the microphone there and say, hey, everybody out there, what's the answer to this question? And then you ask some detailed biological medical question. And then you say, okay, I got a whole bunch of spotters out here. Everybody that thinks it's this answer, raise your hand. Everybody thinks it's this answer, raise your hand. And then we're going to go and take the answer that the most people responded to. I don't know if you can really count on that information that's coming from most people as being accurate. But if you say, okay, everybody out there who's a medical doctor, only you people respond. Okay. Now you're going to get a totally different quality of responses. And so this is one of the things about context that people started doing that. You started to see after ChatGPT first came out that you had people that came up with good prompts that gave good answers. And people put together prompt libraries. You could go out there and find a lot of places where there was thousands of prompts that had been successful. And you could just copy and use those prompts. Some people were actually selling them for money. But because these prompts went from being a 3-line question to being a full written page of instructions of, yeah, I want to ask this question, but I want you to limit the response to only peer-reviewed papers, and I want the answer to look very much like this. And so you kept narrowing down the context so that the answer is going to be much more suitable to what you were looking for. And OpenAI recognized this. And they said, wow, look at this. Look at these people. They're writing these long prompts and everything. And they keep repeating the same thing, the prompt to prompt to prompt. And let's give them some tools that maybe will simplify that. So they added a function called custom instructions, where you could say and put all those things that you would repeat in every question to get a better answer. You could put all those in one custom instruction place. And then you can say, but don't include these things, exclude these. And you could put those in another part. And so you're really able to narrow your context. Now, if I'm asking a medical question, I might have one kind of context. If I'm asking a question about Christmas cards, I might have a very different question. Or if I'm asking a question about how to best market something or to make an ad. So people started doing that. So people started to saying, okay, I need one set of custom instructions over here, but I need another set of custom instructions for something else I'm doing. And so we came out with custom GPTs. Custom GPTs, basically what that allows you to do is have multiple sets of these special instructions, custom instructions there for different use cases. And so we've seen the industry has responded to the usage. So those 100 million people there that got out there and started using it, and they refined the way they used the tool. That caused the tool makers to modify their tools to make it easier for these people to get the results that they wanted. And that's been the evolution. So the evolution's been driven very much by the users of the technology. And now that we're getting into agent technology, this is going to expand. Right now, there are companies out there. Maybe this might be something for your small entrepreneurs. We know consulting business, a lot of this so-called consulting business is really body leasing. I need somebody temporarily to help me with accounting here or to help me in my logistics or whatever. And so I'll go out there and hire somebody. Or if I need a lawyer or I need an accountant, I just need them during tax season. I need them for a short time. So there's people that have built personas. They've built custom GPTs, if you want, that says, hey, I'm an expert in accounting, or I'm an expert in real estate tax law, or whatever it is. And they've created many such expert personas, and you can rent them. So you could say, hey, instead of me going out and hiring a human tax advisor here, I'm going to go over here and hire an AI tax advisor. So there's companies out there that will rent you or give you non-body leasing, if you would, of these experts. And there are people that have gone so far as that you can put together a chief marketing officer, chief financial officer, production manager, an R&D expert. You can pull together all the skills you need for a business. And so you become a one-man company, but you've got 20 expert advisors in each of these different areas, and you hold board meetings, and they each chip in to, here's the idea, and then finance comes in and says, you got to think about this, and the marketing side comes in, says, you got to think about that. So this is becoming real. That's becoming real today. And there's even one video out there where a guy created that, and then he created himself a CEO AI, so that he just goes and says, go find products, go get them on the marketplace, you sell them, collect the money, put the money in a bank account. And the only thing he does anymore is he checks his bank account, because the AI is running the entire business. So these are just examples of what's possible. I would not recommend everybody go out there and say, I want to turn my whole business over to AI. Not today, maybe in a couple of years, yeah. But today, I think you still got to keep a finger on the pulse of what your business is doing and being able to provide some guidance, because even though we've reduced hallucinations and we've eliminated a lot of the weaknesses that AI has, it still makes mistakes. Just like you're not going to go out there and hire one person off the street and say, would you run my company for me? Because humans make mistakes too. At least if you made the mistake, you feel a little better than if somebody else made the mistake that messed your company up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Bill. And thank you for touching on data integrity as well as data accuracy. So making sure that with prompt engineering that we are creating it so that it is bringing back quality answers and relying on quality data so that we can be best informed.
If I could add something to that, and that is one of the AI areas that has really grown a lot is in the area of prompt engineering. A year ago, prompt engineering, everybody's saying, boy, that's the job opportunity of the world out there. But along the way, people started developing AI tools that create the prompts. So you now can go out there. There's a thing called Prompt Perfect, for example, and ChatGPT, one of the add-ins there, that will help you. You can ask a very vague question, and it will basically interview you to find out what you're really looking for, and then it will build the prompt that is going to give you the best possible answer for that. And there's a new tool that's out there. I don't remember the name, about 2 weeks it's been out, that does an incredible job of finding out what you want and then formulating incredible prompts, pages long prompts that are so exacting that it really gives you what you're looking for. The other big trend we have to look for is the case, do not think you've got to create all your own data. I speak a lot in developing countries. If you're in the medical field, I don't think the human bodies are that different in those countries as they are in the countries where they captured a lot of information. So you have to make sure you don't get into this not invented here syndrome. Before you go out and say, we got to capture all our own information, obviously, if you're looking at the information for your patient, you can't take generalized information for that. But if you're trying to go and compare that to what's the general trend for a large body of information, you don't need to do it yourself. Machine learning, you don't need to go out there and study machine learning. The other thing in general, when it goes out there for education, because we're in the era of lifelong learning, and you say, I need to learn all of this stuff, let me go back to the university. Singapore just created this fund where they're enabling everybody over the age of 40 to go back to the university, and they'll pay for it. But the thing about it is anything that's going to take you 4 years to learn is going to be obsolete before you can learn it. So you need to be looking out there and setting yourself horizon. I look and I say 3 weeks. If you can't learn something in 3 weeks, probably skip it. Go hire a professional or whatnot if you need something that extends beyond that. But you can learn almost everything. I believe a 10-year-old today in 3 months can be writing a book on advanced physics at a master's degree level. Because the tools to help you learn, you can go out there and say, go find the 10 best books or articles on some subject and go and analyze them all, pull out the gist of what's really important to know, and give it to me in a 30-minute summary. And it will do that. So don't feel you've got to go and learn the basics. Don't feel that you have got to go and have all your own information. And a big thing today is synthesized information, synthetic information, or synthetic data. So many of the work that's being done in pharmaceuticals in many areas, and things like DeepMind, is the idea of creating synthetic data and playing the scenarios of the results of a whole bunch of things that could happen And you can come up and really narrow the number of options down so few that you can work with that data better than trying to work with the small amount of actual data that might be available in a field. So you just need to be aware of those things so you don't go and say, I got to go to university and I've got to go to take a semester long course in this or that, because that whole way of learning is just too slow to be useful anymore.
Controversial stuff. I hope there aren't any 2-year-olds that will be planning on sitting down and writing their thesis in a few months. But we're coming towards the end of this segment today. And one question that I always ask guests is, and it doesn't have to be related to AI, what should small businesses and entrepreneurs be doing that they aren't right now?
I don't know if they're not doing it right now, but I think some people are. Some people are so wrapped up in what they're currently doing day to day, they don't really feel they have the time to be going and understanding what's taking place around the world that might be important for them. And this gets back to the idea of taking enough time to learn how to use the artificial intelligence tools and agent tools that are available out there to keep you appraised of what's important to you and your business, what's happening to your market, where's the trend, what are the things people are looking for, how am I going to increase the productivity, reduce the costs to my business, because your competitors out there are going to be reducing the costs. Those big studios that are used to spending $1 million budgets on films, they better be looking out there to those little 2-3 person companies there that say, I can create that same film for $10,000. And so you really can't afford to be blindsided. And that's the big risk today. This stuff is moving so fast that if you're not keeping aware of the general trend and not the little detail, let AI do the detail for you, or let somebody that you've hired do the detail for you. But go and understand the big picture of where the needs are going, where the desires are going, and where the capabilities are going that my competitors might be leveraging, or new startups coming into my area, or that I can be that new startup to disrupt that field. That is maybe the biggest opportunity, is for you to be the disruptor in an industry out there that is not really taking advantage of what is possible today. And you can come out there and offer these prospective customers and say, you're paying so much for this today over there, I can give you a better solution for 1/10 of the cost. And so look at the tools that are coming out, not with the fear, what might this do to me? Look at what's coming out and saying, how could I use that to improve my productivity or improve my product or service offerings out there to clients? And as an entrepreneur, your real business is vision, is being able to visualize opportunities, to visualize where things are going. That's the sign. And if you're wondering, are the opportunities, because we look at Microsoft, look at Google, look at almost all these companies, how old the founders were when they founded those companies, or Facebook. One of the hottest things out there right now in this last week is this artificial intelligence agent called Devin, that basically you just tell it, hey, I want a software that does whatever. And it will go, it's an agent type thing. It'll go figure out all the stuff that's needed. It will go figure out how to do it all. It'll find all the tools that's needed to make it happen. It will make it happen. It will test itself. It will fix all its own errors and things like this, and bing, hand you a result. Now, the thing that's interesting in this is 3 20-year-olds that are behind this, that have raised millions and millions of dollars just on an idea that they started 6 months ago. So they might not even have been 20 when they were thinking about doing this. So the opportunities are there for whoever dares to go and say, I'm going to go think outside the box. I'm going to go find the great ways and use AI. I have conversations that last hours, that have 30, 40, 50 exchanges with these things, because every time it gives me an answer, I say, but what about this? Or, are you sure about that? Oh, and another thing, because you had asked about not only the hallucinations, but the erroneous information. There are now AI tools out there. Their only job is to check the quality of the answers and to improve this. So We see this self-improving aspect, especially in agents. So you'll have an AI that says, give me an answer on this. And then you've got AIs down here that say, go double check to make sure that everything that first agent said or that first AI said is right and or applicable. And so basically, I'm describing an awful lot of stuff, but this is the reality of life right now, unfortunately. So it can be really exciting for you as an entrepreneur to see about all the opportunities. It's almost endless, the opportunities out there. The risks that we're talking about are more the risks to your marketplace, to your society, that are going to impact your business. But again, if we start thinking about them in advance, because this stuff is moving now so fast that we can get caught that all of a sudden, whatever we see as a problem out there, the moment we start thinking about an answer, AI's already moved way on and the problems are very different. We've got to get to a stage where we are able to create the AI tools that are making sure that our society does not run out of control. We got to do that before that happens, because once that happens, humans will no longer have much of anything to say. That's my biggest warning. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. And for the listeners, I hope that you've been empowered today to go and explore AI, dip your feet in and see how you can supercharge your business. Don't forget to visit our website at www.mysenseihub.com for resources. And also, if you're looking for a tool to help you power your business with AI, if you've never done it before, we do have a course that's available on some of the prompt engineering that we've mentioned today. It's called AI Powered Startup. So definitely go and have a look at that and see if that's a good fit for you. Join us for next week for another enlightening discussion. Until then, I'm your host, Denise Creisson, and I'm here with my esteemed guest, Bill Graham. Thank you very much. We hope to have you on future segments as well. Since AI is changing so rapidly, I'm sure we'll need an update in a few months.
Pleasure.